Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Drawing Down the Stars. I'm Snappy, and thank you for joining me for our live tarot reading today, September 19th, 2024. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. I got a big pile of books. We got a nice long evening. Originally, I had been planning to do a deep dive into the incredible HD Hilda Doolittle with my dear friend Graham, but they are currently not feeling well. So today, instead, we're going to just do a bunch of readings and have some fun and do a long tarot and sorte session, go to town and enjoy ourselves. So let's start out, as always, by giving a shout out to you beautiful people in the chat. So good evening. Good to see you, Johnny. Good evening, Exit 101. Valerie, great to see you. Taz, good morning. Kari, much love. Artemission, great to see you. Okay. Yeah, it's called a virginal, which is a type of harpsichord. That the small ones are called virginals. Really interesting. D Love, good to see you. Stoic Dissension, much love. Jeff, much love. And Nikos Mass, good evening, good evening. Thank you guys all for joining me. I know it's a bit earlier than our normal time, but we're gonna have some fun. So let's start out by talking a bit about the astrology. So we are still in the moon in Aries, fiery Aries, that passionate energy, that productive, moving energy, that combative and engaging energy. And in the sign of the moon, this is telling us that we have the power to really go to the depths of ourself and to put our feelings into action, to really light a flame inside ourselves and to move passionately. And from that instinct, from that intuition, right? This is intense energy, but when we combine it with that logical, analytical sun in Virgo, we can be balanced. We have the fire to move, the passionate energy to go forward, and we have the reason and an analytical power to make it possible in a responsible way. And it's an incredible energy. It's a fiery, earthy energy. And if you take this, you can go places now. So embrace the moment, move in flow, build and perfect yourself. Love it. And when I was meditating this morning, I drew the priestess. And I just kept thinking about how the power of the priestess, of that energy, is, if you look at the card in the Thoth Tarot deck, she is the grand weaver. She's weaving the pattern across all of history, right? It's that Demeter energy, that Rhea energy, the goddess in mother in its early form, in its long time working form, right? The energy of the priestess is the energy of that discipline, right? And it's also that energy of recognizing that all of the universe is her creation. It's unfolding from her. It's coming from that river, from that flow, and it's unfolding across time. And she is that weaver, right? So we need to learn to see that flow, to see the beauty in the natural world around us, to see that divine goddess herself, and to embrace the flow, to embrace the pattern that she has put into motion since the dawn of time, trillions of years in the unfolding. And we are, in one essence, merely a stitch, but in another, a grandiose part of a beautiful tapestry, right? And I wanted to read for you guys a fun poem by Madison Julius Kawine. It's called Discovery. What is it now that I shall seek? Where woods dip downward in the hills, a mossy nook, a ferny creek, and May among the daffodils, or in the valley's vistaed glow, past rocks of terraced trumpet vines, shall I behold her coming slow, sweet May among the columbines? The red bud cheeks and bluet big eyes, the homes of happiness, to meet me with the old surprise of her holden hair, all bottomless. Who waits for me? Where, note for note, the birds make glad the forest trees. A dogwood blossoms at her throat. May, May, among the anemones. As the sweetheart breezes kiss the bloom and dewdrops drink the morning's gleam, my soul shall kiss her lips' perfume and drink the magic of her dreams. Right? That nature is around us and you can embrace her and the magic that she gives us. Beautiful. For we are but her dream. Love it. Okay, so now let's go to our sortes proper. And for those of you unaware, the sortes is a form of bibliomancy, that is divination through literature, and it comes to us from the Greco-Roman tradition. And we invoke the spirits of inspiration, the goddesses, the muses, and ask them to inspire us and send us a message through the text. So today we're going to begin with Hermann Hesse, Narcissus, and Goldman. So muses, what is the message? Inspire us this evening. Okay. This was a lie. He had said it to get rid of him. He might have been a well-meaning man, but Goldman had had enough of him. Oh, wow. Interesting. You know, we have to be careful of the lie. There is power, right? The lie can protect us, you know, but the lie is an interesting thing, right? It changes the meaning of the story and it lessens the power of our words, you know? So it can be used to protect yourself. And in situations where you have to protect yourself, then of course, you know, but recognize that there's danger in that type of speech, right? Potentials for much harm. But at the same time, we do not want to be in those extremes like we see in more intense religious traditions, right? Where you are bound and you are forced to the truth. What is the truth, right? And what is a lie? And if it is to defend yourself and to protect your life or the life of loved ones, is it really bad, right? There's nuance here. There's understanding that needs to be done here, right? All must be looked at through that lens of reason. And we don't bind ourselves to strictures, even though we can reasonably say that in general lying is bad. Every one of us can also imagine a scenario in which it saves, you know, and for those reasonings, we cannot be bound. We cannot bind ourselves to the limitations of stricture and contract, right? Let's continue. Speaking of contracts, Dr. Faustus by Marlowe. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Marlowe? When I behold the heavens, then I repent and curse thee, wicked Mephistopheles, because thou hast deprived me of those joys. And then the devil responds, Mephistopheles, why, Faustus, why dost thou think is heaven such a glorious thing? Why, Faustus, why thinkest thou heaven such a glorious thing? What have I lost? What have you lost and what have you gained? And just because someone tells you something is beautiful doesn't mean it is. Right? Where are the lies? This is interesting. Interesting. Okay, let us continue. We're now going to go to Byron. Okay. Muses, what is the message from Lord Byron? Inspire us. Sooner will I with Cerberus exchange my office, and his is no sinecure, than see this royal bedlam bigot range the azure fields of heaven. Of that be sure. Saint, replied Satan, you do well to avenge the wrongs he made you, your satellites endure. And if to this exchange you should be given, I'll try to coax our Cerberus up to heaven. Wow, this is interesting. Sooner will I with Cerberus exchange my office than see this royal beblem bigot range the azure fields of heaven, of that be sure. So they would rather be the gatekeeper to Hades and give up their place in heaven than let this person run things in a bigoted way. Saint, replied Satan, you do well to avenge the wrongs he made your satellites endure. And if to this exchange should be given, I'll try to coax our Cerberus up to heaven. And the devil is willing to go along with it. He says, you want to be a saint and sacrifice yourself? Sure, you can come down here. We'll let you guard the gates to hell. I'll even let Cerberus go up to heaven, maybe. We can flip the poles. Pole flipping magic. Interesting. And it is because of what? Injustice. What sparks the self-sacrifice that causes the poles to flip? Look, you're seeing someone who through their idealism is willing to take and suffer the destruction of hell in order to change fate. That's polar magic, right? That is that Median virginal magic, that sacrificial energy, right? Nemesis. Wow, interesting. And recognize too, Cerberus is really Hecate. One of the interesting things, Carl Ruck talks about this in the, I think it's on his book on Samothrace, where he basically says that Cerberus is her avatar, right? And she can already travel the three worlds. So it shouldn't be hard to get her to go up to heaven anyway. All right. 10 plays, Euripides. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Euripides? Inspire us this evening. Courage, dear mistress. Do but save yourself. As far as I'm concerned, the silence you impose on us, great Zeus be my witness, will be kept intact. That's beautiful. Here you go. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to be a hero. You just need to save yourself. And you don't have to pass judgment on anything else. You can just do your part and go your way. Wow. That's a beautiful message. Let's continue. We're now going to go to Federico Garcia Lorca. 3 tragedies. All right. Muses, what is the message from Lorca? Inspire us this evening. And wombs be open to birds without sleep, and when winter tries the door in colds to keep, the bedclothes must receive our tears, but we must sing in bed. Wow. And wombs be open to birds without sleep when winter tries the door and colds to keep. The bedclothes must receive our tears, but we must sing in bed. I'm going to continue because there's some interesting poetry here. It's neat. When the husband comes to bring the wreath and bread, because our arms must intertwine, because in our throats the light is rent, because the leaf stem becomes fine, and the hill is covered with a breeze's tent. Wow. Oh, wow. So much interesting here. Love magic, sex magic, learning to sing together in harmony. Wow. Interesting. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to go to Antonin Artaud. Watch fiends and rack screens. Muses, what is the message from Antonin Artaud? They came, all the motherfuckers, after the great disencasement manifested from bottom to top. Holy crumb. This is wild. They came, all the motherfuckers, after the great disencasement manifested from bottom to top. Again, we're getting that pole flipping magic. And what does this release? It releases the motherfuckers. Wow. Interesting. Not good nor bad, but violent. Interesting. Okay. We're now going to go to Craig Williams, Entering the Desert. All right. Muses, what is the message from Craig Williams? Inspire us. From such a self, verily space came into existence. From space emerged air. From air, fire. From fire, water. From water, the earth. From earth, herbs. From herbs, food. From food, man. From food, man. You see that coalescing of the divine being into the form of Dionysus, who is the dying and the rising vine, right? Who teaches the art of making the wine, of creating the food. Wow. Amazing. And that was a quote. It comes from the Tatriyaya. Sorry. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. 1 second here. Okay. My apologies. All right. It comes from the Tartatreya Upanishad. Tartatreya Upanishad. All right. Shall we continue? Okay. We're now going to go to Shiva in the Primordial Tradition by Elaine Danilou. Okay. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Elaine Danilou? You know, the problem when you have a ton of old books is that you get a little bit of dust. And I do try to keep this place clean, but you know, it happens. Okay. Shaivite cosmology seeks to summarize nature in the form of geometric designs, codes, proportions, linked to certain key numbers. Such diagrams are three-dimensional objects called yantras. When Einstein suggested that all in the universe is geometry, he was enunciating a principle that Indian cosmology has always held. And also Greek, Pythagorean cosmology, triangles all the way down. Anyone who's looking for the true power of that number 666 and where it comes from in the pagan traditions before the Christians corrupted it, look up Pascal's triangle and see the descending of the diamonds, right? And you'll find that number. It's that solar reflecting light of the sun descending to earth. That's all it is. Parvati Darpana. Okay. By Harsha V. Dehasia. All right. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Dr. Dehasia? Inspire us this evening. Okay. All right. The integral activity of consciousness, free of all limitations, leads to bliss. The integral activity of consciousness, free of all limitations, leads to bliss. You know, and that is the fundamental story being told by the marriage of Shiva and Parvati. And what's interesting is many scholars have identified this as an analogous tale to the marriage of Persephone and Hades. Yet there is no violence in the Shaivite cosmology. There is no abduction. It is a coming together of forms in harmonious lovemaking, right? When they're talking about the integral consciousness leading to bliss, what they're talking about is that integral consciousness is seen through the marriage of Shiva and Parvati and their connection. Parvati is that will, right? She climbs the mountain and she finds Shiva in his meditation, right? In his perfect, surrender unto himself, united in form, perfectly at peace, okay? At peace, but alone. So what does she do? She goes through a process of divine imitation, and she starves herself and begins to practice yoga and austerity. She only eats the seeds of the lotus, and she practices the yogic magic until eventually Shiva becomes aware of her presence because of her austerity. And then when he perceives her, he sees himself reflected in the mirror that she possesses, and falls madly in love with her, right? And then they engage in this lovemaking, where in that lovemaking, they become that ananda, the pursuit of bliss. And in many ways, the whole point of creation is to allow for that play to unfold, the Leela. The drama of creation is all about bringing the couple together to produce the child, right? Beautiful. Okay, let's continue. We're now going to go to the Psychic Bible by Genesis Peorage and the Temple of Psychic Youth. Muses, what is the message from the Temple of Psychic Youth? Inspire us. And time called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And time called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Wow. They're reimagining the Bible, and they're using time as that father figure, as that Yahweh, Saturn, right? They're saying Saturn called the firmament, which is that great blackness of the sky. He called it heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. But it's interesting. We've been having these comments about heaven and what are we striving for? What are you really, you're reaching up to the heavens. There's all this obsession. But what is the heaven really? The heaven is that nothingness, that blackness, right? And now I'm not saying that there isn't something to be gained from gazing into that abyss, but that abyss is not what you think it is. You know, the love and hope and peace that the people truly seek is to be found in the earth, in the new generation, in the rebirth. You know? All right, let's continue. The Jaguar and the Priest, Pedro Pitarch. Okay. All right, Muses, what is the message from Pedro Pitarch? Inspire us this evening. Narrative does not give the saints any consistent identity. However, and even less are they endowed with individualized features that identify each one as unique. The stories do not create a real figure. They leave the saints incomplete and in suspension. To come into existence, characters require some sort of narrative plot in which the structuring principle is configuration of the action in time. But any temporal configuration is extremely weak in these stories. Not only are they few in number, but the narrative is poorly developed. Saints appear in a time that is practically a place, a space in which different types of beings, among them those that in present time are the equivalent of humans and saints, are jumbled together with no differentiation between them. Under rules of composition such as these, it is impossible to create a character that is minimally recognizable. But in my opinion, that is the effect that was intended, both as a visual representation in narrative and in shamanic song. The profile adopted by the Zetzel saints is sufficiently piecemeal and precariously as to be appropriate. Okay, what has just been described here is a feature of many different types of paganisms that a lot of people struggle understanding. Is that the stories and identities are masks. They are elements of a story that are used by a shaman. And it is the magic and the storytelling comes from the magic of the shaman, comes from their ability to tell stories. So when we see these figures, we from the outside want to imbue them with some kind of story greater than what they are, but really they are these transitory figures who wear masks and are given life by the shaman. You know, often this is the thing, and many of these characters wear multiple masks or same masks, or they overlap because there's an exchanging of forms and images. The image serves the shaman, right? And it is an image. And we have to recognize, right, when we engage, like in the Greco-Roman tradition, when you engage with the divinity, with the universe, really what you are engaging with is daimons, spirits. You engage with a medium, something that's in between us and them. There's not a direct perception. It is mitigated through another. Everything exists in this multiplicity of perception and must be understood as we put together in a mosaic, right? Interesting. Lots to think on. Okay. We're now going to go to An Independent People by Laxness. All right. Muses, what is the message from Laxness? Inspire us this evening. The Fell King. You may be right in maintaining that the war arose from nothing but sheer stupidity, Jartor. But personally, I'm inclined to agree with Einar when he says that such a statement is an exaggeration of the truth. Wow. The Fell King, the tyrant, right? Even the tyrant will say, you may be right in maintaining that the war arose from nothing but sheer stupidity. But personally, I'm inclined to agree with Einar when he says that such a statement is an exaggeration. Stupidity is clearly a function of these things, but it's not stupidity alone. Think about it in our current moments when we witness such extremes of fear and anger. All you have to do is turn on the political news and you will see it. And it seems so incredibly stupid. But it is not just stupidity. There's a lot more at stake and a lot more at play, right? And to dismiss it only as stupidity is to not understand what is happening, right? Lots of intelligent people fall for propaganda. And that's a really unfortunate thing. Let's continue. Okay, we're going to go now to Underworld. All right. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Underworld and the Sepulture Society? Inspire us. Pluto is invoked in classical texts for two primary purposes: standard funeral offerings and necromantic spells. He is one of the deities to which both priests and sorcerers addressed their prayers. The same cannot be said for most celestial deities. When funerals took place, offerings of black sheep or cattle were made to Pluto. A ditch would be excavated, then the animal would have its throat slit so that the blood would drain down into the ditch. In some cases, red wine would supplement or replace the blood. In terms of necromantic works, Pluto is invoked in curses and binding spells against the living, and also in spells of divination, where his permission is needed for the shades of the dead to interact with the living. Excuse me. Wow. The blood can be supplemented with wine. That's interesting. And we see this, if you're looking for a pure example of this rite that's being discussed, you can see it full on display in Book 10 of the Odyssey, which is by far the best book. If you're going to read any of the Odyssey, skip to Book 10, be blown away, and it will inspire you to re-engage with the whole book. Because that's where you get the crazy necromantic rites, where Odysseus, after having learned the magic from Circe, goes to this island and does this. He digs himself a ditch and he gets himself a black ram and he slits its throat and he pours the blood and libations of barley wine and other things into the ditch. And then all of that rises up are the spirits of the hungry dead. He calls out for Tiresias, the wise sage, but he has to defend off the hungry dead and use his sword to protect himself until Tiresias is revealed and he can feed him the blood. It's interesting. You know, and it's one of the oldest necromantic rites that we see in the Greek tradition. Wild. Let's continue. We're now going to go to Of Cosmogonic Eros by Ludwig Klages. Okay. Muses, guide my hand. What is the message from Klages? Inspire us. In passing, we remember that not just the Greeks and the Romans used the word shadow. All right. And we, as already know, also eidolon to be synonymous with soul, but also innumerable wild people still do today. I've read this one before, but it isn't a beautiful one, right? There's a beautiful thing here. Shadow, soul, and eidolon, image, an idol, right? Ideal, idea. These are all interrelated concepts. Wow. Okay. We're now going to go to Aleister Crowley, Book 4. Okay. Muses, what is the message from Crowley? Inspire us. Nuit cries, I love you like a lover, when even John reached only to the cold, impersonal proposition God is love. Wow. Wow. That is beautiful, right? That great goddess, you know, Lady Babylon, Nuit, right? That Medea energy, that Cybele energy. I love you like a lover, right? The queen of starry heaven, Aphrodite Urania. I love you like a lover, even when John reached only the cold proposition, God is love. And she says, no, I'm not only love, and I want to embrace you in warm embrace. I want to make love to you, right? She is the unfolding of creation. She makes love with herself. She wears all the masks and takes on all the forms. And she loves all of creation. All is beautiful in her eyes. All is worthy of growth and generation and will be embraced in love. And that which dies returns unto her and is reborn again in loving embrace. For she is that great recycler. I love you like a lover, when even John reached only the cold, impersonal proposition, God is love. She woos like a mistress and whispers to me in every ear. Jesus, with needless verbs, appeals vehemently to them that labor and are heaven laden. Yet he can promise no more than I will give you rest. In the future, while Nuit in the present says, I give you unimaginable joys on earth, making life worthwhile. Certainly not faith, while in life upon death. The electric light knowledge for the charred corpse candle faith, making life fear free and death itself worthwhile for a new expanded experience. Peace, unutterable rest and ecstasy, making mind and body at ease that soul may be free to transcend them when it will. Wow. So much beauty here. That was incredible. Gotta love it. Let's continue. We're now going to go to The Voodoo Quantum Leap by Dr. Reginald Crossley. All right. Muses, what is the message from Dr. Crossley? Inspire us. The neutrino is known to exist for real. 3 types are produced when atomic nuclei or subatomic particles disintegrate. If any of those neutrinos shows up with a mass, it could be the shadowy dark matter particle. Many astronomers have their reservations about this occurrence. Neutrino dark matter, also called hot dark matter, would produce top-down galaxy formations in which superclusters of gas and neutrinos formed first and then broke down into galaxies. What's wild about this is that when you start to get into that dark matter and the shadow universe and things being produced out of some kind of cosmic black hole that gives mass to our universe, it sounds a lot like the Orphic cosmology. Now, I don't like jumping to those kind of wild conclusions, but it's always interesting. It's always interesting. Okay, let's continue. Oops. Oh, it's all good. All right. Hooray by Gabriel Macari. All right, Muses, what is the message from Macari? Inspire us. O weeping prima materia, thou who hast fallen prey to hubris and built wonders such as Irem of the many pillars, which remarkably sundered stricken with the wrathful bolts of divine thunder. Wow. O weeping prima materia. Prima materia, the original matter. That priestess energy again. That Gaia Rhea energy. Right? Demeter. Thou who has fallen prey to hubris. Right? She gave her creation freedom and it returned to her with hubris and abused her, and built wonders such as Iram of the many pillars, which remarkably sundered, stricken with the wrathful bolts of the fine thunder. The technology she creates destroys herself. And there's an image. 3 pillars and the thunder. Wow. Okay. We're now going to go to the Master Aquarius, Michael Bertio, Monastery of the Seven Rays. Muses, what is the message from Bertio? Inspire us. The essence of all power is thought. The power of thought is really the thought of power. Once you think of power, you have realized it in all of its aspects. This is the occult law of mind. Wow. Mind and mind alone is reality, the reality which is common to all being. If you will it, it will come. You are the creator of the story. Wow. Interesting. The Three Musketeers by Dumas. Okay. Muses, what is the message from Dumas? Inspire us this evening. The political plans of the cardinal when he undertook this siege were extensive. When he undertook the siege, the political machinations of the cardinal behind the scenes. Recognize that when we see any kind of major political event, when any of these mass movements are happening, there are always multiple characters behind the scenes making their way, playing things, having their way behind the scenes. There's always more to it than what meets the eye and what the narrative is presented says. All right. The Name of the Rose. Muses, what is the message from Umberto Eco? Inspire us. All right. My master waited till the newcomers had entered and had been greeted by the abbot according to ritual. Wow. Then he went to meet the group, and there was a series of fraternal embraces and salutations. They waited for the newcomers, and then they agreed according to their ritual and to their laws through secret handshakes and passcodes. Had to receive that initiation. Initiation is an interesting thing. It's about receiving that knowledge that grants you access to the master, right? And it's about accepting that lineage of teaching and tradition. Wow. Let's continue. Okay. We're going to do one final sortes. All right. The Poems of W.B. Yeats. Muses, what is the message from Yeats? Inspire us this evening. Okay. And when through all the town there ran the servants of your enemy, a woman and a man, unless the holy writings lie, hurried through the smooth and rough, and through the fertile and waste, protecting till the danger passed with human love. Wow. And when through all the town ran the servants of the enemy, right? Coming to attack and destroy. A woman and a man. Unless the holy writings lie, which is a distinct possibility, hurried through the smooth and rough, through the fertile and waste, protecting till the danger passed with human love. What is the message? Embrace that love, find that partner, find that human companionship, right? And it is love that will sustain you and carry you through the fertile and waste, protecting you until the danger is past. Human love is the key. Wow, beautiful. Okay, we're now going to do our Ganapati Oracle. So, Lord Ganesha Ganapati is the divine child, the Lord of beginnings, the guardian of the threshold, and the master of the Ganas, the spirits. And we ask Ganapati to send us a message, to inspire us, and to ensure that our words are heard by those who need to hear them. So, Lord Ganesha Ganapati, what is the inspiring message? And today's message is generosity, generosity, giving in loving kindness, having the strength to give. You know, when I see this generosity, I immediately think of the Queen of Cups, the most generous of the cards in the tarot, that loving, watering mother who gives and gives, the perpetual shoulder to cry on, the one who's always there to listen, right? You have love to give and much to offer. And if you give in that loving, offering energy, you will receive. This is a law of the universe, tit for tat, karma, right? And being in that generous engagement, showing love for others in friendship and in reciprocal exchange is such a beautiful thing. It'll just bring in so much love into your life. Wow. What a beautiful message to start. Okay. We will now start our tarot proper. But before I do, please give me a like and a subscribe. It really does make a big difference. And if you're at all interested in a private reading, you can reach out, snappyddts@gmail.com, or you can find me on the Myth and Lore Discord, Snappy or Lady Snappy. And if you just want to come and hang out, come and hang out. The Discord is a beautiful, beautiful place, and I'm usually around. All right. So we're going to use the Thoth Tarot of Lady Frida Harris and Aleister Crowley. And we are going to invoke Saturn Kronos. We are going to dissect our life, cut it up and put it on the plate, examine our presence, and we are going to ask, how do we best move and flow? How do we overcome our conflicts? How do we learn to evolve? How do we manifest our true will? And what is the message for the community? Okay. And as always, the center card is the most important. And today's center card is the Ion Temperance. Temperance energy is beautiful energy. Magical, transformative energy. And we were just reading the words of the goddess Nuit. And here she is in her glorious starry heaven, Aphrodite Urania, right? And she is that one in which all of the creation unfolds, right? In the background, you have Osiris, and then they are reborn and remade into the divine child, Harpocrates, right? Through temperance, through strength, through cyclical transformation and growth. Over lifetimes, we evolve and become better. We grow and expand. And we're always creating and preparing for that next generation, right? Ensuring the cycles unfold so that experience and generation continue in loving flow. All right. What is this about? What is the temperance? Yeah. We are in that pursuit of knowledge. The temperance is about perfecting the self. What beautiful energy too to have with the Virgo sun. And now with the Knight of Swords. The Knight of Swords is the one who pursues learning, who goes out in the world for understanding, who seeks wisdom, who pursues those lofty heights of highest understanding. And connected to the ion, we're in that energy of understanding, of learning, of tempering ourselves, of growing ourselves, of going through that process of rebirth and reimagination. Yeah. And what it's about, not only is it about learning to pursue that knowledge, to move in that higher realm, and to have the strength to go for it, but it's about overcoming the oppression. What I'm seeing here is that we're ending a cycle here. We're breaking out of patterns. You know, the 10 of Wands is that energy of pursuing desire to the point of stagnation and oppressing energy, right? This is when that pleasure turns addictive and when that addiction turns to prisoning. When we are bound by cycles and we cannot live without that desire, when all our actions are made and determined by that desire, and we are bound to it. What I'm seeing here is that in order to break that cycle, to break that oppressive energy, to overcome addiction, to take responsibility and transform ourselves, we must embrace that energy of the one who pursues wisdom in that mature, outgoing fashion, who takes responsibility, who sees things from that logical mode, and has the strength to go through that temperance energy, to reimagine themselves in their entirety, to begin anew, right? To really work on the self is to break ourselves down to our composite parts and to ask which is serving and which is not, and to have the strength of and disciplined action necessary to stop, right? This is taking your life into serious hand, organizing your shit and sorting it out, you know? Wow. Beautiful. Let's continue. Yeah. Yeah. That reason. Perfected reason. The 6 of Swords. The 6 is the most balanced, perfected number, right? And that reason is that expanded perspective and balance that allows us to see the path ahead clearly, where we can move and flow with that protection and caution necessary without hurting ourselves. But we are moving in balanced action, right? And where are we going towards that transformation? And it's about being reasonable, you know, having the strength to be critical of ourselves, but also balanced and practical and actionable, right? What can we actually change and what can we actually do? You know, the other day I was talking to people on the Discord and someone was amazed. Oh, you get up every morning at 6 a.m. How do you get up every morning at 6 a.m. for the sunrise? And I say, well, I didn't really say much. I just kind of was joking with the person, but I was thinking about this. And it's like, I recognize that I'm at a certain point in my life now where sometimes it's more difficult to not get up with the sunrise. My body has been trained now. You know, I have developed that pattern through disciplined action. And now it is second nature. And now even if I go to bed at midnight, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. Right? And it comes from putting things into practice and action. At first, it is impossible, right? But if you do it every day, if you force yourself, if you go through the pain, it's less and less so. And then soon enough, it is routine. And that's what ritual in many ways is about, right? We have to learn to balance the ritual and the spontaneity, because recognize that true attention is a really hard thing to achieve. Focus and attention is next to impossible. And that it's through that ritualized discipline action that we have that kind of focus, that we can remember, that we can develop these skills. But we also want to be in that spontaneous flow. It's a difficult thing. That's why you got to find the muses and what works for you, right? You got to find what works for you in your life. And you have to flow. Know your body, right? That's what real reason is. Okay. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Embracing reason and taking the leap. Taking the leap, right? Pursuing that wisdom, pursuing that understanding. What this is about truly throwing yourself into this. And we're throwing ourselves into that pursuit of wisdom and into that understanding and reason, right? Sometimes we need to be in that passionate mode, in that throwing yourself mode, in that creative embrace mode, right? Dionysus the Fool is that childish energy. It's that joy, it's that love, it's that audacity to try. It's that belief that you can figure out the universe, that you can master reason. Let's continue. Yeah. Where does this reasoning lead? All this transformative growing energy? It leads us and it gives us the skills necessary to build, to truly manifest that tree, to build that tower, to build and to grow through that prudence, through that energy of transformation, right? That temperance. Recognize these are interrelated energies. One is the higher, one is the lesser, but the energy is the same. It is that energy of tending to the garden, of tending to the self, of ensuring that things are working smoothly, that the structural foundation is sound, that the weeds are removed and that the fruit is tended to, right? That the pests are taken care of. Right. Let us continue. Our old friend, the Prince of Discs. Those of you who've been watching this will know that when I first started doing these regularly, the Prince of Discs was haunting the community. And the Prince of Discs is really intense energy because it is that reckless energy, right? It's that young man who's in the earth, who wants to build, who wants to transform reality, who wants it all now and is stubborn and bullheaded, right? And one way this energy is powerful, it's beautiful because it can build. It has the strength to plow and till the fields, to produce the fruit and the food necessary to sustain us. But on the other hand, it's that intense energy of the bull. And it could just come into your china shop and smash everything to pieces. Everything, right? In the belief that he can build it better. Intense energy. But what we see here, what is he connected to? He is connected to the ion, that temperance, and to the reason, that science. This young man is learning their lesson and is going through that transformation and is coming to an upgrade. They're taking responsibility. They are going through that transformation and they're coming out the knight. They're coming out an adult. What is leading to this transformation? Wow. That prince is having their world kind of flipped. There's a lot of transformation here. The tower is coming down. We're getting out of Dodge and moving and beginning again. There's been some collapsing. And sometimes, this may be something that the prince knocked down themselves, right? Like, let's be real here. The prince is the likely culprit for knocking down the tower. You probably did it to yourself kind of energy. But at the same time that when you knock that tower down, you can begin again. And if that tower is one that is a foundation of oppression, of stagnation, it needs to be broken. It needs to be burnt, right? Recognize even the old growth forests, right? They need the fire to get rid of the dead so that the new life can come in, lest the forest stagnate, right? There is a place for all of this, even that tower energy. Where's that tower coming from? It came from this belief in futility, an inability to grow, an inability to expand. So what I'm seeing here is that this young man, this energy, right, of that prince, of that reckless youth, of the one who goes out in the world, what I'm seeing here is that they didn't manifest much. Every time they tried to expand, they were met with resistance. They believed it was futile. And now the tower is collapsing because it was a tower that was empowered by a lot of oppression and desire, but it never was able to manifest reason. So now we are starting anew. The tower is falling, right? That oppression cycle is ending. And we are now going through the temperance. We are upgrading and expanding upon this energy through that refinement of reasoning so that we can become that knight. You'll see it clearly when I flip here. Before I do, once again, please give me a like and a subscribe. It really does make a big difference. And if you're at all interested in a private reading, you can reach out to me, snappyddts@gmail.com, or find me on the Myth and Lore Discord. I'm Snappy or Lady Snappy. All right, so let's take a look. Our full spread. Here we go. So let's start here with our knight. Here's the thing. To overcome the tower, you must learn to take responsibility. Become that logical person who pursues wisdom. And from this experience, has the strength to move and to become that mature person. Often when we are faced with these kinds of intense situations where shit is tough, that's when we are refined through steel, when we become that tough person. And we are facing a crisis where our logic is being put to the test. But if we can rise to the occasion, be that mature person and defend ourselves from that logical perspective, overcome and see this for what it is, we can take that leap, move and flow, and grow beyond the falling of the tower. Beautiful energy. And it's about taking that responsibility and taking the leap. When you see this fall, you get out of the way and you have the strength to get out of the way and to pursue that knowledge, that wisdom. And when we pursue that wisdom, it leads us here, right? That ion, temperance, rebirth. And we see it clearly. It's not just simply a rebirth, but it is a personal refinement through reason. We have come up short, immature, hopeful, beautiful, but not refined. And now we are going through that process of self-refinement through the balancing of logic and perspectives and reasoning. Amazing. Now we come here, right? That oppression, that futility. You know, part of this is that energy of things didn't materialize in the way we imagined. The work was hard, you know, required us to be in that prudent building mode. And our passions became oppressive. We were bound by this overthinking, unable to see things clearly. But the key to get over this is to be in that prudent mode, right? To do what is necessary to trim the fat and to reduce and to come back to a more reasonable mind, right? Look, if you take that prudent energy and you apply it to the 7, we can taper down this overthinking and transform it back into reason. If we take that prudent energy and we apply it to the oppression, we can taper that down and transform it into the 9, the strength, that fiery passion that'll give us the power to transform. So this is what that energy is about. In order to overcome these things, it's about that self-discipline, self-responsibility, and temperance. We need to get out of that youthful mode of that person who just thinks in the short term, who doesn't want to do the work of growth, right? We need to become the knight. Recognize the knight is not the squire, right? They have gone through that transformation, right? They were once a prince or a princess, and now they are a knight, and they are refined by their own experience in hard work. And that is what we have to do. We have to take responsibility and recognize that we're showing up as that child, as that bullheaded child, right? Take responsibility for this and temper ourselves. Wow. Now let's look at our crosses here. Yeah. Again, when faced with the collapse, when faced with the pain and transformation, we need to have the strength to persist, right? Even when things fall, you pick up the pieces and you try again. And you build from that practical, logical way. And you have the strength to reimagine. You go, okay, why did the tower fall? And then you list all the reasons. You know, a lot of people wonder about magic, and I tell people often magic is that power of imagination. It is the plan before the plan, it is organizing inside the mind. You have to think and be practical, and then you have to turn it into practical action. You know, magic is the stories we tell ourselves. What is the story you're telling yourself? You can manipulate and control the story. Come up with a good version where you take responsibility and become that knight. Temper yourself and overcome that oppressive energy. Take reason and learn to leap, right? When we experience these losses, these frustrations, we recognize that, yeah, that was probably ugly. It's never just your fault. The tower doesn't just fall from this energy, but this energy certainly got out of Dodge. And this energy was certainly having trouble expanding. And we need to see that and apply that reason to ourselves and upgrade, right? Become that pursuer of logic and wisdom, that mature adult, right? Who can move beyond. When the tower falls, you have to have the strength to be able to just continue. And that requires courage and strength. This seems on one hand like a fool, but the fool is also the strongest and most powerful card because he has the audacity to try. The audacity to try, right? That's going for it, pursuing it, tending and doing the work to turn this into that 6, to turn this into the 9, right? To be in that disciplined, refined space, to give birth to Harpocrates, to Telesphoros, that divine child to come, Dionysus reborn. All right. That's the message, everyone. I hope it resonated with you. It certainly resonated with me. Okay. We are going to do one more sorties, and then we're going to call it an evening. I know I started kind of early today, but I hope too many of you weren't screwed up by that. All right. We're going to go to Parvati Darpana again by Dr. Dehasia. All right. Muses, what is the message from Dr. Dehasia? What do we leave our audience with tonight? It is important to note the Parivitria does not tolerate the concept of illusion, neither does it have room for negation. It is the process of affirmation, then turning back, not turning back having discovered an illusion. It's the cycles. You affirm life, and then you go back and affirm the unity. It's that duality, that paradox. We are both one and the many, individual and together. Beautiful. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun. I hope I will see you again tomorrow for more live tarot and sorties. Peace and love. Until next time, take care.